When the HandyScan 700 was introduced, it revolutionized the handheld 3D scanning market with its great accuracy, speed, and ease of use. Then came the HandyScan Black Elite, the first metrology-grade, ISO-certified, handheld 3D scanner with its unmatched speed and accuracy. And now, the HandyScan Max, the only ISO-certified, metrology-grade, portable 3D scanner capable of 3D scanning parts up to 50 feet in size with unmatched speed, ease of use, and accuracy.
Okay, let's start by talking about who the new HandyScan Max is for. And this is for people who want 3D scanning and metrology grade inspection for medium to large parts and be able to do it on a shop floor quickly and easily with a system that is very portable. So this is things like large metal fabrication assemblies, large aerospace parts and assemblies, large tooling like vacuum forming, molds, dies, anything like that, large layouts of equipment, machinery, plumbing, electrical, anything like that, that you've got a big, large area that you need to scan, this is going to be a great scanner to take a look at. And if you do want to take a look at that, I'm going to put a phone number below where you can contact us and an email address, and we can set up an in-person demo of this scanner, or we can do a virtual demo, or really answer any questions you have. Just reach out to us and we can discuss the new HandyScan Max. Now what we're going to do first is just give you a quick overview of the specs, then we're going to go into a little more detail on some of that stuff, and then we're going to get into scanning some parts. So starting out, there's two models, the standard HandyScan Max and the Elite model, and we'll go into those differences in a minute. The scanner has 38 blue laser lines. It picks up 2.25 million points per second. It is ISO 17025 accredited, and it has a stated accuracy measured to the VDI VDE standard of 75 microns, which is 3/1000ths of an inch, which is very, very good, especially for on large parts. Okay? And you can do parts up to 50 feet in size. And we've already done some very large parts with this and actually measured them against a laser tracker, and we're very impressed with the results. It's super portable. It comes in a small case. You can check it as baggage, and we've flown all over already 3D scanning all types of parts with this thing. It looks large and heavy, but it's not. It's only 2.7 pounds. We have been scanning with it all day long and had no issues at all. You've got the smart panel on the back here, just like all the other Creaform scanners. You can control a lot of stuff. And then the other thing that's new on this scanner is we have a mount back here so that you can put a phone or a small tablet for remote viewing and control. And what's nice about this, when you start scanning large parts, you have to be tethered to the computer, but this allows you to basically have that computer screen right here. You can control everything as if you're standing next to the computer. You can watch what you're scanning. You can stop, start, zoom in, all those kind of things right on the back of the computer. So that's really nice. And then finally, this has 3 different scanning volumes. And we're going to go into more detail on those and the differences between the standard model and the Elite model next.
Okay, first let's discuss the packaging of the two scanners. The HandyScan Max has a smaller single scale bar, so you can see it's in a slightly smaller case, where the HandyScan Max Elite has two longer scale bars, and you can see it's in a little bit larger of a case. But both of these cases we have checked as luggage and had no issues flying with these to go on site and do scanning projects. Now, looking specifically at the accuracy numbers, if you take a look at the HandyScan Max, it's 115 micron accuracy. This is done, again, to the VDI VDE standard, and this is something you can review on the calibration sheet of the scanner, where the HandyScan Max Elite has an accuracy of 75 microns within that same test. Now, as you get outside of the range of that test, basically the volume that accuracy test was done in, then you look at the second number there, and that's essentially your stacking error. So you take the 3000s and then you add that other number per foot, and based on how large your part is, that's going to give you a good overall accuracy of the 3D scanner. So besides the accuracy difference, the other big difference between the two scanners is the scanning volumes, and we're going to go into much more detail on that now. Okay, so the first mode is what's called the near volume, and that is, as you see in the graphic here, that's your closest volume. That's the one if you're looking for the highest resolution. It uses the standard 6mm targets. You place them about 6 inches apart. It has about a 12-inch working distance or depth as you scan. And the scanning area, kind of your XY, is 8 inches by 12 inches. And you can go as tight as 0.4 millimeters or 15 thousandths of an inch. And that is your mesh resolution. So next up is the standard volume. And this is available on both the standard Max and the Max Elite. Now, you can use either the 6mm targets or the 12mm targets. You can't use a mixture of both, but you can use one or the other. And the targets can be farther apart at about every 12 inches. The working distance is 3.3 feet, and the scan area is about 3.3 by 3.3 feet. That's, again, your XY area. And the mesh resolution can go down to 0.8 millimeters or 30 thousandths of an inch on the resolution. And the final volume is the far volume. This is also only available on the HandyScan Max Elite. This uses only the 12mm targets. The spacing of those targets can be 20 inches apart. The working distance is 8.2 feet, and it scans an area of 6.6 by 7.9 feet. And the mesh resolution is 3 millimeters or 0.12 inches. So those are your three volumes available. All three are available on the HandyScan Max Elite, and the standard mode is available on the HandyScan Max. Now, part size will dictate a lot of this as far as which one you choose, but maybe which targets or which resolution you would like could also determine which mode that you pick.
Okay, so now we're ready to actually do some 3D scanning, and I thought we would start in the standard mode because I think that's the mode we found already that we use the most. But you may use only the very large mode or the short mode or all three. But let's start with the standard mode. So the standard mode uses the 6mm or the 12mm targets, as we talked about. And let me explain my setup here. So I have these new spherical targets from Creaform. They come in a nice kit, and it's basically a little round sphere with 6mm targets, and then it's got a magnet on the bottom. Now, if your part isn't magnetic, we use that kind of thicker foam double sticky tape, and we just rip it or cut it to size, stick it on here, and then we can stick it on the part. This is a floor pan out of a car, so it's metal and obviously magnetic. So you can see we don't have that many of the spherical targets on here, maybe 10 of them. Now, you can use just the standard sticky 6mm, 12mm targets in this mode. You can use a combination of the individual magnetic targets, those half spheres that we provide the CAD model for if you want to 3D print them. I'll put the link in the description below. You can use those. You can use our speed target tape. Really any combination of. Now you can't mix 6 and 12 millimeter targets. It's one or the other, okay? But you just randomly place them around like any Creaform scanner. Now what's new are these little targets here, these little flat targets. And this is to create clipping planes automatically. Because what you'll find on large parts like this is typically you're scanning it out on the ground somewhere or whatever. You can now, I've placed 3 of these on here, and depending on how many you place, it'll automatically do different things, but 3 of them will create a plane. So having 1 here and 2 there will automatically create a clipping plane of this table so that everything underneath it doesn't get scanned. So that's really nice. And also, because you're scanning large stuff, you don't want to be processing all that data. You want it gone immediately. So you'll see here in a minute. And then the other thing I have here is one of our scale bars. Now with the Elite, you get 2 of them, and with the Standard, you get 1. You can use 1 or both. In this case, with a part of this size, 1 is fine. And you can see I've got it here. It comes with these nice magnetic mounts as well. So again, if your part is magnetic, or just even to hold it, we use these to set it down on the ground. On a small part or medium-sized part here, 1 is fine. If we're doing something larger, we'll put 1 horizontally, 1 vertically, and scan both of them. Now, once we've acquired them, we can get rid of them, but we'll leave it here for now. And so that's it. So we're all set up. Let me walk over here and tell it to scan the targets first. And this is definitely recommended most of the time, especially when you're doing larger parts. Even on like the HandyScan, we recommend you scan the targets first. But there's some added benefits with this new system. So let's start. And you can see it's already found that clipping plane. And then I'm moving around, and with these spherical targets, you just want to try to get as many of the targets as you can. Now let's come down. You see it's got the scale bar, and the scale bar's turned green. If it's red, that means you don't have enough measurements on it yet. And you just want to try to get everything from a bunch of different angles, okay? Especially with these spherical ones, because you've got a lot of targets on the side. Now, once we get done, what you're going to notice is a lot of the targets are green, and a few of them are red, okay? So you see here, a couple of them are red. That just means it doesn't have enough measurements on that target yet to consider it a good quality target from a positioning standpoint. So it's totally up to you. You can go back and continue to scan and try to pick it up. 9 times out of 10, as you can continue scanning, it'll get more measurements on it and make it a better target, so to speak. So once we have that done, now we tell it to scan surface just like we would any other scanner. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our scanning, and you'll notice right away just how big of an area you can 3D scan. So those 38 laser lines, and yellow turning to teal is just like all the other scanners. That's letting you know you've got enough scan data based on the resolution. So you want that to be teal for fidelity. Okay? Now, as far as the resolution goes, we're set right now at 2 millimeters. Now, we can crank that down to the max, but what you're going to find is this thing scans so much data so fast, you got to be a little bit careful. As long as you've got a computer that can handle it, but you can get a ton of data very quickly. So what we found is we're using the high resolution mode, which is on some of the other Creaform scanners, but we're using it a lot more on this scanner. So we set the resolution a little bit higher, and then let's say over here in this area, I want to get tighter resolution. So we click that high resolution mode, and you can see everything in purple. We're just painting that with the scanner here, and we're set at 2x, so we're going to get twice the resolution, meaning 1 millimeter resolution in this area, and then at any time I can click it off and continue scanning. So we'll have the higher resolution. Now don't confuse resolution with accuracy. The accuracy is the accuracy. This is going to scan at the 75 microns or 0.003 of an inch all the time. And keep in mind, that accuracy is in an area like this. You start doing something much larger, you've got to look at your stacking error, and that's some of those numbers we were showing earlier. But generally in something in this size, we should be well within that tolerance. That's also part of the reason you want that scale bar there. But also, just like other scanners, you can see Here's how close it starts to turn red or eventually will shut off. But watch, look at how far back I can stand to right about right here. I'm about 3.5, 4 foot from that part. And look at how much data. Now I'm going over the same areas. Of course, that doesn't hurt, but you can see just how fast and how much data we can scan. Okay? So that's the standard mode and kind of the setup. Next, we'll go ahead and do a small part in the near mode, and then finally we'll do the far mode just to kind of show you those different modes. But this is generally how the setup works and how you would scan with the new HandyScan Max. All right, so now we are set up to work in the near mode, okay? So parts like you see here, we've scanned this with many of the different Creaform 3D scanners, this transmission housing. And you can see it's just a standard Creaform targets on it. I've got one of the new targets to define the clipping plane. So just like before, we will pre-scan the targets first. So I've come over here and I just say scan targets, and we'll go ahead and scan those. You can see it's already found the clipping plane, and we just work our way around just like any other Creaform scanner. Okay, and if we think we've got it good, we can stop, and you can see there's a few red ones. We don't have to, but if we want to go back and just keep moving around, because it's using triangulation to look at those targets and get good positioning on them. So, you know, up to you if you want to do that. It'll naturally do it as you're scanning, but you can see there. Now go ahead and stop this and scan the surface. Let's come over here and just watch how fast this will scan. And I've got it set to the max resolution of 0.4 millimeters. Now, even when we're scanning with the HandyScan Black or the other HandyScans, we don't go down much lower than 0.5 resolution, unless it's a really small part with really fine detail. So if you have parts like this, this scanner is going to work just fine for most things. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that's resolution, not accuracy. We're always scanning at the highest accuracy, but you can see how fast these 38 laser lines work. Now, this does not have the single line mode like the traditional HandyScans do. That's one thing you'll have to consider. So, you know, the single line mode will get in a little deeper in some of the smaller holes and smaller, you know, veins on this transmission housing. But the beauty is that you have a scanner that you can do parts like this and do them very well at a very good accuracy, and then you can go out and scan something 50 foot in size. It's just unheard of to have a scanner with this much versatility, okay? So, you know, we keep going around like we talked about. It's already found our clipping plane. It's all line of sight. Now, the other thing is this has a thing called auto shutter, which is new for a HandyScan. It's been on the GoScan Spark and the GoScan series for a while. But what it does is it automatically adjusts the shutter, which is the laser power, excuse me, and the speed of the sensors, the cameras, okay? So when you have something dark and shiny, it needs more power. It needs to slow down that capture rate. This will do this automatic. So if you've got something dark in one area and light in another area, it'll automatically adjust the lasers and the sensor acquisition speed. So it's really nice, and we've been using it for a while and found on most things it does it great. So you don't have to auto-adjust it anymore by telling it to adjust it and then sample or try to set up the HDR mode where you've got two different modes. This is basically going to do it for you. So we found it really nice, and we've done some very shiny and very dark things with no problems. So you can see I'm just kind of going over and over the same part here. But again, let's stop this scan and finalize, which is the same as before, where you stop scan and then you do your final, your finalize. Let's do that and take a look at how this looks. Okay, so look at the quality of this data in just that quick scan we did. So it's absolutely incredible the level of resolution and detail that you can get. So again, the versatility of this is unbelievable, to be able to do smaller parts like this at a very good resolution and accuracy, to medium-sized parts, to, again, things very, very large. So that's the near volume scanning. Final thing we'll do is do the far mode volume so you can see what that looks like.
Okay, so for the FAR mode, we decided to go out to a customer site where we could do a large part. This is a 22-foot mold for a boat hull. So you can see we're putting the 12 millimeter targets on, and you can see we're spacing them out quite far apart, about every 20 inches or so, just randomly placing them like you would any other target and just moving around. But you can see how few targets on such a large object you really need when you're using that FAR mode. And here's just a pan across so you can see we've got the targets, we've got a few of the pucks down on the ground, and then we've got our scale bars horizontally and vertically. All right, so now we're ready to actually do the 3D scanning, and we're just taking the default resolution of 3 millimeters, and right away you can see how much data we can capture, how large of an area in the FAR mode. So we're just kind of moving left to right and up and down, getting a little bit of overlap on our scans. Now you'll notice the scale bar there in the display. We've removed them so that they're not in our way, but they'll still show up in the display, just indicating where they were. But once they've been scanned, you can remove them. So we're going back and forth. The data goes from that yellow color to teal in this mode, just like all the others. That's letting you know, based on the resolution that you're scanning, that you have enough scan data for that area. And just working our way up here in the nose. We're using the tablet here, of course, because we're doing a large part, and it makes it very simple to be able to see what we're doing without having to look at the computer screen. And then we're going to just go back down and get some of these tighter corners a little better. Missed a little area down there at the bottom, and then we'll be done. But you can see just how fast you're able to scan something this large, and only a handful of targets on this to do this 3D scanning in the FAR mode. And here is just a quick render of the actual scan data. This is right from the scanner. It hasn't been manipulated or smoothed or anything done to it. So you can just see how good a quality scan data we can get with the new HandyScan Max.
All right, so this wraps up the video on the new HandyScan Max. Hopefully you found this video informative and helpful as you're looking maybe for a 3D scanner for medium to large parts. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like us to come on site and do a demo or a benchmark, or you've got questions about this, or maybe you want to set up a virtual demo to get started, you can reach out to us at 877-845-2700, or you can send us an email at info@ems3d.com. Or maybe you're not ready to buy yet, but interested in having EMS do some services for you with maybe this scanner or some other scanner, just reach out to us. I'll also put a link in the description below for a quick contact form if you just want to do it that way. Send us your info, we'll reach out, and we'll go from there. But again, this wraps up the video on the new HandyScan Max.